Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT based in Westport, Connecticut. I'm also a transformation coach. I'm an energy healer and a shamanic practitioner. And I also have this TV show, the Spiritual Connection Show. And as you know, if you've seen it before, it's really all about connection. You know, it's about connecting with each other so you can meet my guest each week. It's also about allowing you to connect more fully with your own spiritual self. So learn everything you can from our guest and take that with you on your own journey. All right. And before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Transformation Center CT. So we're based here in Westport, Connecticut, and this is our contact info. You can see it on the screen. transformationcenterct.com is our website, and you can reach us at that email address, transformationcenterct@gmail.com, or at the phone number listed on there. Because we have individual appointments, we do coaching individually, we do the healing individually. And then we also have workshops and classes. During the pandemic, everything is online on Zoom. So we've been doing our shamanic clinics online the second Tuesday of each month, where you can have an individual half-hour session with a shamanic practitioner. And it's just like a little intro. You can sign up for that through the website. And also we do satsang once a month, which is Sanskrit for in the company of the truth. And that's an hour that we spend with each other, and we do some guided visualizations, some chanting, some talking. It's really just a nice hour to be with yourself and get to know your heart a little bit better. So we'd love to see you at that as well. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen share for that. Yeah, and I'm really, really excited for my guest today, because this is the first time I've met him virtually, but we have a mutual friend, really, I guess a colleague in common. So I want to introduce you to Chaitanya Brandon Ives. And I'm going to read a little bit about him. Welcome to the show, by the way, Chaitanya.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Katie, for inviting me into this little unique world that you've developed. Yeah.
I know, it's fun, right? We're going to have a great conversation, I'm sure. But I'm just going to read a little bit about you for our audience who doesn't know you at all. So Chaitanya is a professional energy healer and an online teacher of heart rhythm meditation. He specializes in helping guide people back into refined awareness of their nervous system and to recalibrate emotional dynamism through this work. I love it. That sounds just awesome. He is very well trained in navigating the different stages of spiritual awakening, and he provides long-term meditation mentorship as well. So we're going to learn all about that in a few minutes. You know, and when I was talking to him on the phone before the show, he started to tell me about how he got interested, really deeply interested in the topic of loneliness and alienation. And so he uses breath work, energy healing, and really the broad faculty of heart, which is a theme for today, you'll find out, to recover gracefully from trauma and stress dysregulation, which is really, really important in this world right now. So as one of two deans in the graduate program for heart-sourced energy, which is known as Herkalya, the Herkalya method at I Am Heart, which is the Institute of Applied Meditation on the Heart, which I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about in a few minutes. And he is currently the lead practitioner in the world on this system. So that's phenomenal. It's really, really cool. So he has a website I'm going to show you right now. It's called illuminationpath.com. Okay. All right. There we go. And you can reach him at that email address, the Chaitanya@illuminationpath.com. And on the website, he has a few self-paced resources which can help you learn to breathe with your heart, as well as refine your own meditation practice. And on the website, you can also find out anything about his upcoming classes that he has, inquire more into his energy healing offerings, which he does. And you know, that can be done long distance, over, you know, over video, over the internet, or with a phone, just like all the energy healing that we all do now. There's a lot of virtual healing going on, and it does work just as well as if you were doing it in person. Yeah. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Chaitanya. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think you were right there. That was lengthy, a lengthy introduction I provided you, but hopefully it gives us some anchor points for this conversation.
Right, exactly. I wanted it to be like a little, kind of like a brief overview of what was to come and a little bit about you. But you know, our audience is going to get to know you through yourself, which is perfect. But before you start telling us more about what you do right now, what I'd love to hear about is the first question I always ask, which is, can you tell us a little bit about like your own spiritual journey this far, like how you got to, while you're doing what you're doing, how you got there?
Yeah. So my journey, I mean, when people get asked, like, how did you get on the spiritual path? How did you discover that there was this whole unseen world to exchange with and to like become aware of, right? Like, we live in this paradigm in which most people believe that the material world is just it, you know, it's kind of, that's just all we are, and that's fine. That's a fine viewpoint to carry for a while. But um my journey really started when I was in my early 20s, and I had a dog. I had a dog who I named Riza, was the founder of the Wu-Tang Clan. So I had this special dog. Um, and I was one of those guys who had, you know, the dog was off the leash and he was like really loyal, and he was like, we were just in this like super special bond. And we were like that from day one. I met him, and it was just, I found myself adopting this dog, almost like taken over by some larger force. Um, really doing a very irrational thing, because I wasn't earning a whole lot at that time. I was, yeah, I didn't feel like I should be, you know, picking up new responsibilities. And, you know, I was just, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Right. And so I had that dog for 4 years, and he actually ended up being older than the little, you know, than the little label that they said they had. And he eventually got old, and he started to slow down, and he got a little osteosarcoma in his knee. And I noticed this lump in his knee, and I'm sort of like, I have invested every ounce of my love, attention. Like, I only really knew deep love through this dog at this time, right? So at the same time, I'm also taking like a very basic but deep yoga training. Like the a lot of people have these kinds of spiritual awakenings through the context of learning about breathing, learning about meditation, and then they, like, you know, it's all about like the asana of, you know, of yoga and everything. So I'm very much interested in yoga and feeling like good about that, but something in me also was really interested in the meditation portion of of that training. And I would demonstrate, um or I would do my practicums and like end up teaching like a half hour of meditation at the beginning of a class, and everybody's like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is too long, like we're not used to this. And I was just experimenting with like going into that deep space. And And as a part of my training, one of my teachers was teaching me about Hindu mantra. And they're teaching me about this sacred phrase. This is Om Namah Shivaya. And I still don't know a whole lot about this sacred mantra, but I do know that Om is this, is a familiar concept, just the cosmic sound of creation, they say. And then Namah Shivaya is actually, I later found out, is the syllables for the elements, for the sacred elements. So I didn't know any of that at the time. I just found I had like a likening to these sounds, and I was like really trying to figure out, like, what are these things supposed to do? What's supposed to like open in me like when I do them? And I really wasn't doing anything, but I had this impulse. Okay, so I'm approaching this, um really the passing of my dog, who I've imbued every like ounce of love I have into. And in order to prepare for the at-home euthanization service, I got my little mala that I had bought at the bead shop, and I was like very scared. I was very afraid of losing my friend, right? And he it came time to, to help him pass. And the person who was, doing this service came in, and she gave me private, um, just privacy to spend time with him. And I'm saying this phrase internally. I've been saying this phrase, um, with a lot of new, like, I'm trying to cling on to something very precious. I don't know what else to cling on to other than this phrase. And the moment passes where we replace the medicine in him to help him pass. And I was really saturated with the vibration of this sound, this mantra, because I had been Om Namah Shivaya, right? Even as I talk about this, it like brings up that just the tenderness of that transition. So my heart broke. My heart broke so open. Um, when it came time, I was very ready for it. It was like had placed myself into a state of peace and acceptance, and that this sound had kind of like gotten into my cells. Now I didn't know this is what I was supposed to do with the mantra, but when my heart broke, my heart broke open wide. And I actually saw this light. I saw this light, like it was coming from within. It was actually going into the space. All I had was candles in the room, right? So I was very, very born open, but it was a profound expansion of my awareness and of my heart. And I had that memory of that heartbreak in me for 8 months. Every day I was thinking about it for hours. Like, how do I it was as if I had sent out a beacon to something, to somebody. Like, I could tell that it was like, wow, that was that little action, this little moment of compassion between me and my friend, that changed something for me. And I still had him in my atmosphere. I was still like working with him. It was as if he was there. It was as if he was around. And so this was a really big shift in my awareness of the spirit world, of the relationships we cultivate. And then from that, I could carry out the thread. We don't have enough time to go into it, but we could carry out the thread of how I really feel that action, that moment I had, set into motion me finding my home, my spiritual home, my teachers, the people who have sense like really, really held me through deep, deep, um, yeah, heart changes in heart awareness. And so um, that was when I found the Institute for Applied Meditation. I started studying heavily heart rhythm meditation. I was like a missionary for it for a while. Like I was just like, this is the way, right? Because the insights I had gotten from that accidental little Om Namah Shivaya, dog passing moment, there were practices, there were teachings, there were things that would help not only have that experience again, but to really help the heart like grow and shine and radiate. I hope that's okay. That I took such a
Yeah.
long time to answer that question, but yeah.
No, that's wonderful. It's very moving and beautiful. What a fabulous experience because, I love the way you describe your heart broke, but it broke open.
Mhm. Yeah.
Most people would relate a breaking heart to something falling in, but for you, because I think you were ready,
Mhm.
obviously, and you had that mantra. By the way, that's a mantra that we say in our practice all the time, and that's what we chant when we
Okay.
chant in our satsang, and it's Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Shiva. And for us, it translates roughly to I bow to my inner self, or I bow to the God within. So it's all heart related. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So you were right on track with that one. And no, I love it. And it's like you were ready for something more. So that was just like the beginning of your journey, really. I mean, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the being on the spiritual path in a kind of unconscious way, like I could go back into my childhood and say, well, that was a spiritual experience and this was a spiritual experience, and but I wasn't really couching them in those terms. And when I did get connected with, I Am Heart, the Institute for Applied Meditation, that's when I really feel like I started my formal spiritual training. So there's a distinction between, we're always on the path on some level. And then like when do you take up the mantle of like working with these energies internally, learning to wield breath a little bit. We can't really wield breath entirely, but there's a deepening of um, spiritual experiences that happen kind of accidentally, and now you can kind of move into a space where it's
Mhm.
a whole field gets opened up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. It's more of a conscious evolution, conscious um, movement in a way, because
Yeah.
everything's movement, everything's growth. Um, that's the way I look at it anyway. We're
Yeah.
growing whether we're conscious of it or not, but if we put the consciousness behind it, I think it just accelerates it and opens up, more possibilities, more opportunities, that type of thing.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. So tell us more about whatever you want, but I'm curious about, the heart, the meditation itself, or I Am Heart, or anything else you want to share about your work, what you do.
Sure. Well, the energy healing methodology of Hercalia, um, it really started its inception in 2015. But there's a deeper history there, right? Like my teachers, Paran and Susanna Bear, they developed the techniques of heart rhythm meditation and spent time to really cultivate a momentum with, the basic practices, with how to refine the energy through the chakra system. Then there's, the dimension, we call them the dimensions of the heart, like how to breathe in a way that breathes forward and wide and high, right? So with any engagement with meditation, um, eventually you will run into the fact that the experience that that breath there's like breath in the lung tissues, but there's the energetic portion of breath. So they have quite a refined system for cultivating this work inside of you. And I started working for the school while they started to roll out the content which they had kind of been sitting on, percolating, and then they developed this whole full training which uses the faculty of heart to help recalibrate the nervous system, to generate pulsed electromagnetic fields, which are very, very healing. Those are actually um, energy frequencies that the heart emanates that actually has really deep value for tissue regeneration. So, bones have one frequency, the, blood cells or lymph, these have another frequency. So, depending on what ailment you have, is going to call for what energy is needed to support the body's own innate ability to heal. I think I talked to you a little bit about this when we checked in at first. This is one of these ephemeral problems for me because I want to say I'm a healer, right? But I'm not the one doing the healing. So I have built up through these practices, through this meditation, and then through the sort of advanced developments that Hercalia provides, an awareness of how to put somebody into a state in which they can really rest. And it's from that space that the density of our psychological lives can be kind of lifted or buried or burned or washed, right? All of those I'm hinting at, there's element energies involved. The burying is earth, the water is washing, right? The fire is incinerating. But I think one of the most ephemeral like skills that any healer in any modality would want to know is how to pace somebody's healing progress and how to like step back, have the appropriate amount of distance, allow people to discover their own divinity from within and their own innate abilities to heal, and then really to be there when they are stuck in a rut. And like it's just, okay, I got you, don't worry, like I've been here before. That's really the message I always want to provide. And that's kind of why I mentioned loneliness, right? Like my I hinted at it a little bit with the story of my dog, right? For some reason I wasn't connecting with people as well as I maybe thought I was or whatever, but I really had the dogs are just so unconditional. They're so, they're just beautifully bonded creatures. They will take on everything, and they will, give you everything. But humans are more complicated, right? Like, so trying to find the right relationship, trying to find the right teachers, right? Like all of these things. When I started to understand how closed off my heart was by starting to breathe into it and melt it or wash it or give it a little bit of heat, right? And go through all these processes, that's when I really started to understand the dynamics of loneliness and why I felt so lonely, right? We could get into it. I've actually given whole like presentations about the topic, but at the core of loneliness is self-rejection.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't really summarize it any further. So the question is, what part of yourself are you rejecting, right? And why?
Yes, exactly. That did come to me while you were mentioning it. It's like if we don't start with self-love and self-acceptance and self-compassion, it's almost impossible to make that human connection and give it or receive it from anyone else. Right? Yeah.
So I want to ask you, like, what are the tools that you have for coaxing out that sort of self-love or the compassion that is required for moving into a better relationship with yourself? Where do you start with somebody?
I try to start not in the head, but in the body,
Yeah.
in the heart if possible. But it starts with well, depends on which kind of client, whether it's coaching or healing. If it's healing, I usually start with the energy healing, with shamanic, removing whatever blocks. I like you said, I facilitate. I don't do it.
Mhm.
We're the facilitator. My master healer does it, and try to remove whatever. Sometimes it's a gate over the heart. Sometimes it's like spears stuck in the heart. So, there's all sorts of things that can happen to our hearts, as you know. So I often start there, and whatever other chakras need to be cleared out. And then there's also modalities in the coaching, talking to our different parts, that part that feels shame, or that part that feels abandoned, that
Yeah.
inner child that
Right.
hasn't. So it's about healing the parts of us that are holding us back and making us feel unworthy, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So we just have a couple minutes. I'm just keeping aware of your time
yeah.
limitation. How would you want to sort of close? What else could I offer to you and to your people to?
Yeah. Well, I think if there's anything that, because a lot of people that watch our show, I like to think are beginners,
Yeah,
on the path, like they're seekers, is maybe
sure.
a better way of putting it.
Hmm.
They really want some way to, like an entry point. So is there anything that you would recommend, I guess, for someone who's just starting out on the path to look up or contact you, or, because I do want to put your contact info
Yeah.
back
So
screen.
as
So
far as
maybe,
my contact information, that's been said. It's at the front of this video. So illuminationpath.com. We'll just leave it there. You can find any other way to connect with me that way.
okay.
But as far as getting a little bit further on the path, there's a simple intervention. I didn't invent this, but I think it really helps, is to carry awareness of your heart throughout the day, throughout your business dealings, in your relationship with folks, with your most intimate partner, perhaps, even the gesture of placing your hand on your heart. You cannot underestimate how valuable this is. We neglect our hearts. We neglect our bodies as a society. I'm really grateful that you said, like, I try to anchor people into their body, because it's through the body that we regain the you know the depth of our emotion, the range of our ability to be with others. And that's the beginning of that process. In my opinion, starts with the heart. So
Great.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
a good place to stop.
That's a beautiful place to stop. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again soon. All right.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
I'd love to be back anytime. So if
All right.
I'm just very grateful to be here. Yeah. Thank you so
Well,
much,
thank
Katie.
you.